Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, the Yankees will add a 23rd number to Monument Park. Just announced that on the September 26th game, the Yankees will honor CC Sabathia by retiring his number 52 out there in center field, again, amongst the Yankees legends and greats, and giving him a plaque in Monument Park. And look, nothing against Sabathia. I liked him. I thought he was a great Yankee here, but I do not feel he is, quote-unquote, qualified for Monument Park. And I'm going to make that argument right here. So make sure, before we get started, subscribe to this podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And there's also the YouTube version of the show. Go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and subscribe there as well. So the Yankees have 22 retired numbers. A little trivia if you could guess them all, but it will not take too much on that. And Sabathia will be the 23rd number, adding his 52 to be retired out there. Now, look, as I mentioned before, I like him. He was a great Yankee. The timing was perfect when he came in 2009. The Yankees needed an ace. They brought him in. They brought Mark Teixeira in. They brought A.J. Burnett in. Turned the franchise around. Won the World Series. And again, he put together a very good Yankee career. Can't complain about that, but I just do not see him fit to be retired, again, amongst the Yankees legends and just, kind of got the spell at the reasons. Number one, as mentioned before, you look at the number of World Series, he only played and pitched in one of them. And this is not a guy who, has multiple rings. And I understand some of the other Yankee retired numbers could say are watered down a little bit. You want to say Jorge Posada to a degree, Paul O'Neill to a degree. Yeah, is CC Sabathia maybe a quote-unquote better player than O'Neill and Posada was at their respective positions? Yes, but at least, O'Neill was around here for 4 World Series rings and played in the last one in 2001 and lost, but 5 World Series total. Jorge Posada went to 6 World Series total. Now, Posada technically wasn't on the 96 postseason roster. He did come up as a September call-up in that year. So you could almost make the case that Posada was involved in 7 different World Series teams, of which 5 of those won rings. Multiple rings, where Sabathia just got the 1 visit and 1 ring there. So that's off. This for the top is there, because I know some people might say, yes, the Yankee retired numbers have been getting watered down a little bit lately, so why not add 1 more? But just because you did that in the past a little bit, I just don't think it's an excuse just to, let's just add another, watered down retired number there. So that's the argument for that one. And then also it just opens up this Pandora's box with so many different situations. For example, Hideki Matsui, he came here. Well, he was part of the same World Series championship team Sabathia was. He was a really good Yankee. Come here, put up some big numbers. I know by the end there his legs gave out to him. He couldn't really play the defense anymore. But you could maybe make a case for Matsui's 55 to retire that one. Or how about El Duque, number 26? Didn't have a long Yankee career, but when he came here, they won championships right away. He got 3 World Series rings for the Yankees. 4 visits, 3 rings. That's 2 more than Sabathia has here. Maybe make a case for El Duque. And not only was a good Yankee, pitched brilliantly in the postseason. Has a better postseason resume than you almost say Sabathia does there. So have it put El Duque there, retire his number 26 there. So I just think it just opens too many gateways there, and is don't like the whole situation. And just the fact, another thing you want to throw in there as well, he didn't come up as a Yankee. Yes, he spent most of his 19-year career in the pinstripes, 11 years with the Yankees, 9 years with Cleveland, and half a year with the Milwaukee Brewers there as he was bouncing around a little bit. But, it's a little different when someone comes up through the organization versus you just buying the guy as a free agent, buying him outright. And I know, yes, later in the second half of his career, he considered himself more as a Yankee. He went to the Hall of Fame, which I think was well-deserved. He could wear the Yankee hat. That's all good. You could have probably made the argument for both that and Cleveland, but probably made a little bit more sense just for Yankees. He spent a little bit more time there and did get the World Series ring with the Yankees there in his first season. So you can at least understand that to that regard. But beyond that, once you put Sabathia into the fold of getting his 52 retired there, again, you could open the doors to a lot of other cases there. So that's why I'm not the biggest fan of it. And if you just want to look at the whole situation, look at his numbers. When he came to the Yankees, his first 4 years were really good. But then he also had a lot of years after that he scuffled. It wasn't like, all of his 11 seasons were absolutely brilliant, or, maybe just about half you say were really good. The rest of them were either just terrible or he was hurt. Yes, he spent a lot of time here, but maybe, half of that time, or just a little bit more of a half, would you say he was at, top form. And I'll just go through the numbers real quick. 2009, really good season for the Yankees. Come here, he was the ace, turned things around. I can't take that away from him, but yeah, that's just that one time there and 1 visit to the World Series, going 19-8 with a 3.37 ERA. Very good, respectful. Followed it up a really good 2010 season, 21-7 with an even lower ERA, 3.18. So his second year was probably even better than his first year. That Yankee team probably should have repeated. And of course, you can always go back to the trade for Cliff Lee that never happened. He ended up going elsewhere, going to Texas, and Texas ends up going to that World Series, losing to the Giants. But nevertheless, it probably should have been the Yankees on a repeat. Now, if that did happen, at least he had 2 rings for show for it. at least then I can have a case where, look, hey, this guy had 2 unbelievable seasons as your ace and got you 2 World Series rings. Okay, I can at least kind of put myself in the mind frame of a late 70s kind of Yankee, little mini, back-to-back there in 77, 78 sort of mindset. But he just got the one in 2009, and that's it. 1 visit, 1 ring, and that's it. But let me keep going from that. 2011 goes 19-8, even lower ERA at 3, even. And then probably his last, really, really, really good season. I know he had another good one later in the end, but at least for those 4, that initial couple seasons, Sabathia in 2012, going 15-6 with a 3.38 ERA and pitching that complete game against the Orioles. Like it was the Game 5 divisional series to, will his way, pitched like a 3-hitter. So 4 seasons of really good baseball, being the ace. All that being said, just 1 World Series visit to show for it. And when you want to look at his overall accolades, I'm a 6-time All-Star, but he split that. 3 of those were with Cleveland, with 3 of those with the Yankees. It wasn't like he was like a 5 or 6-time All-Star with the Yankees. The Cy Young Award he won, that was not with the Yankees. That was back with Cleveland in 2007, which is probably overall statistically maybe you could say his best year. It was also runoff for the MVP that year. He did some good stuff with the Yankees, but he also did probably maybe just as high-level type stuff pitching with Cleveland as well there. So some of the Yankee teams after that weren't as good, weren't making the playoffs. He started getting hurt. Obviously, he was dealing with the weight a little bit and the knee issue. 2013, just 1 game over 500 at 14-13, but the ERA ballooned up to 4.78. The year after that was a lost season for him, 3-4 record, and the ERA even higher at 5.28. And then obviously he had to end his season early, needed the knee surgery on that. Came back 2015. Again, now 2013 and 14, both years the Yankees didn't even make the playoffs. So, kind of a mediocre pitcher on a kind of mediocre team. I mean, you go kind of look for different reasons for that. Then you go to 2015. He at least rebounds a little bit record-wise, 6-10, but 4 games under 500. ERA just a little under 5 at 4.73. And remember that, unfortunately, that postseason, he had to be left off the postseason roster. Was dealing with some personal demons. And that was that 1-game wild card format game against Houston, where Houston came in here and just blanked the Yankees like 3-0. But he wasn't on the postseason roster. Year after that, another season, the Yankees don't make the playoffs. 2016, went 9-12. Improved the ERA a little bit better at 3.91, but still not even close to ace stuff. So you have 3 seasons removed of kind of pitching ace type numbers. Maybe you can make the case 4 seasons removed from kind of being quote unquote an ace. 2017 then had a good rebound year for himself record wise. 14-5 with an ERA of 3.69. Now that Yankee team did get to the Game 7 of the American League Championships against Houston. Now Sabathia at that point, though, was basically barely a 4-inning pitcher. They had to nurse him along 4 or 5 innings there. So, yeah, even though he had a good record in the regular season when it came to the postseason at that point, I mean, he was barely giving you 4 or 5 innings. Then 2018, decent season, 9-7, but again, 9-7, not even double-digit wins there. Decent ERA, 3.65. And then last but not least, his final season in the Yankees, nothing really great, 5-8, so 3 games under 500, not even close to double-digit wins, and a 4.95 ERA. So, it's about at the top there. Look, he started off with 4 unbelievable, really good seasons. Can't take that away from him, but just 1 World Series visit and 1 World Series ring to show for it. So, again, I just don't know if that's enough to qualify, because then you could open the door to a lot of other different pitchers and position players in Yankees who won multiple rings, who are not going to get the number retired. And I understand he became a team leader, he became a bit of a face of the team and running the clubhouse, and we all know in his final season, he plunked the guy on Tampa Bay to, he could have gotten whatever bonus, but he'd rather plunk the guy, get thrown out of the game there, but the Yankees kind of gave him the money anyway. This is kind of a show of respect. And the whole deal, we understand, he's kind of a classic guy the whole way. I know he had his little problems there in 2015, but overall, what you could say was a solid Yankee. Got nothing against him. I was happy when they signed him, all that there. But, if you're going to put a barometer of who you're going to retire as one of the Yankee greats, I just don't see him as a Yankee great. It was just a really good Yankee, and you could, again, open that door for a lot of other players that maybe should have their numbers retired. And if you want to look what he did overall in his career, 251 over 161, so 90 games over 500, really good career ERA 3.74. Now what he did in the Yankee uniform, 134 over 88. Good, impressive record, like well over 50 games over 500. ERA, just a little rocket high at 3.81. I mean, you almost borderline, 4 there. Now I know he pitched a little bit of, chunk of his career was in the quote-unquote steroid era there. So, yeah, more or less, I mean, by 2009, I think the Mitchell report already come out. So they probably flushed a lot of stuff out of games. But you probably saw some guys dabbling in different forms of PEDs that didn't get caught up yet. But all that being said, again, he did probably also put very impressive numbers up in Cleveland, just as the Yankees there. And one of the reasons I saw with the Yankees, they said, well, he got his 3,000 strikeout in the Yankee uniform. Okay, but he also got like half of that in other uniforms as well. So overall, yeah, he did end up with like 3,093 strikeouts, but only 1,700. About a little bit more, half of those strikeouts were in the Yankee uniform. The other, 1,200 and change were, in the Cleveland or Milwaukee uniform. So just because he did something great in the Yankee uniform, yeah, but you didn't do like all those, 3,000 strikeouts in the Yankee uniform. That's a different conversation. I mean, you did just a little bit more than half in the Yankee uniform, and maybe less than half in some other uniforms there. So that was kind of a weak reason on that. And if you want to poke around other players and just kind of compare, all right, look at someone, Ron Guidry, who overall, man-to-man, stack them up. Maybe CC Sabathia, obviously they pitch in a little bit different eras. Maybe you could say CC Sabathia overall might have been the better pitcher of the two of them. But for Ron Guidry, his entire career, he did it all in a Yankee uniform. And not only won the Cy Young Award in the Yankee uniform, went to 3 World Series, got 2 rings, 4-time All-Star, which is more than a Sabathia, 2-time ERA winner, and 1-time Major League Player of the Year. That's an unbelievable season he had. Yeah, maybe head-to-head, you could say Sabathia was a better pitcher than Ron Guidry. But, again, some people might want to dispute you on that one. But at least Guidry did all his 14 seasons in a Yankee uniform. And if you take someone like Andy Pettitte, who, again, man-to-man, probably CC Sabathia is the better pitcher of the two of them. But Andy Pettitte spent a ton of years in the Yankee uniform. Yeah, he bounced out a little bit with Houston. And he came back the second time. Again, got the 4 rings early on, 96 through 2000. Obviously went to the 2001 and 2003 World Series, lost both of those, but at least did that in the Yankee uniform, but came back in 2009 to get another championship. So 5 rings in the Yankee uniform, pitching in 7 World Series. So, yeah, even though Sabathia is the more impressive pitcher of the two there, but Andy spent a ton of time in the Yankee uniform and won way more World Series rings and made way more World Series visits than Sabathia did. And if you want to take someone like, well, who the hell's Bill Dickey then? Well, Bill Dickey only won 8 World Series. So I just think the whole thing's watered down there. So, I'm happy for him. I'm not going to go crazy over it, but I just think it's a little bit of a stunt. Just sort of like, all right, well, who are going to retire now? And we kind of went through, the late 90s Yankees. And, all right, well, let's go look to the 2009 team. And they're not going to do A-Rod, of course, which that's a controversy in itself there. But I guess the next guy you could pick is, I guess, CC Sabathia. All right, so let's honor CC Sabathia there. So I just think it's just really pulling for straws that a little bit. And the way I say this, I don't want to, say Sabathia wasn't good, he's not worthy, and all stuff like that. He was a really good pitcher for the Yankees. He came along just the right time in 2009. It's not really his fault that team didn't win more championships around that time, 10, 11. That team probably should have done a little bit better, having Teixeira in there. And the core force started to get hurt a little bit, but still had Mariano, still pretty much on top of his game. Again, those teams should have done a little bit better. Maybe want to put that on Brian Cashman. You could, not see Sabathia, but nevertheless, the results are the results, and you can't retire a guy's number. Well, he was part of a team that should have been doing better. They should have won more, but they didn't. So you can't should-haves to get you in there. And even Bernie Williams, too. I mean, someone might say that's a little bit watered down, but as a position player, man-to-man, for what Sabathia did as a pitcher versus what Bernie Williams did as a center fielder, maybe you could make the argument, Sabathia was overall maybe the better player for his position, but Bernie Williams was a Yankee for 16 seasons, and he was there for the turnaround of the whole thing, and he was there for, the 96 through 2000, the 4 rings, their dynasty, and he came up through the system. So, whole different mindset. So I just think the fact that you have Sabathia in there, you quote-unquote bought him off as a free agent. And yeah, so he gave you good seasons, he became a team captain, all that stuff there, but he didn't win a Cy Young for you. He got you 1 World Series visit, 1 series win, and that's kind of it. And he had a couple good seasons himself, but he also had a lot of down years and a lot of hurt years and a lot of kind of wasted years. And really towards the end, only really half the seasons he pitched in 11 years for the Yankees, you could say he was a quote-unquote ace. All that being said, I just don't see that's worthy to have your number retired in their Monument Park and be along with like Mickey Mantle and Don Mattingly and stuff like that. And you want to make the case of Reggie Jackson. Well, the Yankees bought Reggie Jackson. To a degree, that's true, but just look at the time capsule he was with the Yankees. That's a little bit different mindset. I mean, he went to 3 World Series, won 2 of them back-to-back, and of course, you have the all-time legendary 3-run home run game 6 of the 77 World Series there. And Reggie Jackson at that point, man, he was the face of baseball. I mean, he was a bigger than larger-than-life character. And then, CC Sabathia, a well-known type of all-star player, but he was never, like, bigger than the game. I mean, Reggie Jackson was one of those type of, quote-unquote, bigger-than-the-game type of guys that I think kind of overshadows the fact, yeah, he was only here for 5 seasons as a Yankee, but did get you the World Series 3 times and got you 2 championships. And again, the whole 77 series, the 3 home runs there, just kind of a legendary, not only for Yankee moment, but just baseball moment in general. So I think that would kind of trump some other setbacks you would have against Reggie Jackson. And I remember at the time too, Reggie Jackson, some people saying that, he was only here for a short period of time. But the whole Mr. October thing, the whole way he came here and the fighting with Billy Martin, the whole thing, that kind of puts it at another level, even though he was only here for 5 seasons. So that's the argument I want to make. I don't want to disparage CC Sabathia or say he's not good or anything like that. And the fact that maybe you watered down some retired numbers in the past a little bit doesn't open the door to bring another watered down number in there. I don't agree with the decision, but nevertheless, it's not something I'm going to go crazy over. And more disgusted the Yankees, changed the facial hair rule last season, if anything else, but more than that, the Sabathia. But nevertheless, give my hats off to him. But you know what it is? It's a marketing ploy. They want to sell jerseys and want to sell some more bobbleheads. So there you have it. So if you want to go to that game, it's September 26th against the Baltimore Orioles. Catch you next time.